The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. This is the United Podcast Network.
Welcome to Easy Money New England.
Oh, can somebody help us here?
We can, because we are real estate and mortgage professionals.
Where you go?
It says come in and browse.
That's right. Come on in, listen up and learn.
How long do you intend to browse?
In a short period of time, our panel will teach you some tricks that might make your house buying easier.
You didn't ask her how long she intends to browse.
You might not be looking for a mortgage today, but we'll get you ready.
You don't look like browsers.
Are you looking?
No, what do browsers look like?
Yeah, maybe I'm half browse.
On his father's side.
This is Easy Money New England
Let's show the lady we're browse.
with your host, Ryan
Hey,
D'Amico.
look at us, we're browse. One more word out of you and he gets it, all right? Come on.
Welcome to another edition of our show of Easy Money New England, where every week we bring you money-making opportunities or money-saving ideas, all in the areas around real estate. And today on our show, we have Diego Corzo. Diego Corzo has started a website called Free by 26, and it really all started after he read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad in 2011. The book changed his mindset and taught him that he had to be responsible for his own life. It also made him aware of all the things that were taught in school, that they weren't taught in school, whether in high school or college. And a lot of our beliefs are really aligned because that's one of the major things we say, that there's no financial literacy in school. He started with zero in the bank after graduated from college at age 22. By age 23, he bought his first investment property while living in a friend's extra bedroom. Fast forward 3 years, he quit his full-time job and owns 8 properties, has $0 in bad debt. He'll explain that, what that means. And very interesting on, kind of where he started, living in a spare room, right? So we're definitely going to talk about that. Can't wait to ask you about that, Diego. And, he's a Peruvian living in Austin, Texas. And he created that website, freebuy26.com, to help millennials realize that they don't have to settle to what society expects from them. And he graduated high school, graduated from college with a degree, landed his first corporate job, climbed the corporate ladder, and 45 years later, you can retire and enjoy your 401k. So that's like the what everyone thinks you're going to do society. And he's totally against that. And without further ado, hey, Diego Corzo, welcome to the show.
And thank you very much. Very happy to be here.
So, Diego, you started at age 23 when you bought your first property. So that's very, I mean, a lot of people say, oh, well, I was, what I was doing at 23 was not buying homes. I mean, it's, what got you going at that early age?
Yeah, so for me was when I was 21, I went to my first event where they taught me about financial freedom and having an amazing life, right? About wealth. I was never taught, hey, these are the things that you have to do to be wealthy in the future. And the event was called Succeed Faster. And it was basically, I heard a quote by a guy named Adam Carroll where he said, you should build a bigger life, not a bigger lifestyle. And once I heard that quote, it really hit me because I was seeing a lot of my friends, or like I've always heard, it's like, hey, you should like buy these things and buy these things. And what happens is you get stuck in the rat race, right? So when I heard that quote, I began to live my life in a different way, to not just focus on my lifestyle and buying a new car or like being in downtown all the time, but actually being able to manage my money and invest in it for the future, knowing that knowing the rewards that will come in the future as I build my wealth.
Well, it's very interesting to me. I mean, we definitely believe alike, right? So, like, for example, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, that was one of the first books I read that really got me going and really started understanding, the way money works and that type of stuff. So when did you read that book? What year was that, or how old were you then?
Yeah, I was 21 years old, and that was while I was in college.
You went to Florida,
and that book
Florida
was the one
State
that taught me that financial freedom and said I can be an entrepreneur or I can be an employee. But it taught me, the main thing that it taught me is that I can either trade my time for money or make my money work for me.
And you went to Florida State University, huh?
Yeah, I went to Florida State University, and I got 2 degrees from there.
So I recently wrote a book on basically this model, right? And it's the title of the book is Real Estate Riches. The name of my book is Real Estate Riches. Start today and buy your first home, right? So really it's about getting started, right? And everything we talk about is getting that first one under your belt. And I really like how you did it, where you didn't actually own a home for yourself first. You actually lived in someone's extra room and then bought an investment property. And how were you able to get that second one? Were you able to leverage that first one?
Yeah, so when I went to that event when I was 21, I first found out about the topic called house hacking, which for me, it meant at that point, what I wanted to do was buy a 4-bedroom home and live with 3 roommates. Yeah. That was ideal. But my story is that I'm a dreamer. So that's something that's been going on in the news right now because of the DACA program and Trump, he terminated the program. So all of that is going on right now. So I am one of those kids that came when they were young. And unfortunately, it was out of my control, but I became an undocumented immigrant.
Okay.
So I had to go through a few obstacles. So when I was 23 and I was ready to buy my first house, I hit an obstacle that I wasn't going to be able to qualify. But instead of going, okay, my goal at the age of 21 was to own 10 properties by the age of 35. I was like, okay, what can I do to still be able to achieve my goal? And in talking with my dad, I found out that him and I could partner up and take our cash and buy a home cash in Florida. And that was my first deal. I bought a home that was worth like $60,000.
Yep.
I borrowed $10,000 from my friend, and then we bought that home cash. The second home, this one was interesting. So at that point, I couldn't qualify for a home in early 2014. And so what I did is I went to 2 of my buddies that were at my job. And I told them, it's like, hey, I can teach you how to make passive income. If you partner up with me, we can buy a property and be able. And at that point, I was a realtor too, part-time. Yep. So I told them I could find a deal and I could get us that, and I could find us a home and follow the 1% rule. So we partnered up without me being on the mortgage. Yeah. But I was able to trade my expertise and my time to be able to actually get them to trust in me, and that's how I bought my second property.
Diego,
it was a partnership.
Tell us about the 1% rule when it comes to renting, and why is that important?
Yeah, so the 1% rule is basically where if you buy a home that's $100,000, you want to make sure that the rent is at least $1,000 a month. And this is important so that you know that, number one, you can make some passive income on the side once you pay the mortgage or once you pay all the other expenses. But it's for me, it has been one of the best ways to know if a property is going to be good or not on the passive income side.
That's a great concept. I mean, I've heard that now twice in 2 weeks, and it's a great. So does that really ring true for say it's $300,000 house, 1% rule, say it's $3,000. As long as you get $3,000 coming in, you feel like you can make that work?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, finally, I'm in Austin, Texas, and the properties have skyrocketed. So in 2014, when I did that deal with my buddies, I believe that was like one of the last properties that you could actually get in this area following the 1% rule. Now it's more on like, okay, if I want to invest in Austin, it's more I'm going not for cash flow, but for equity.
Yeah.
and you're betting on appreciation. For me, at the age of 27, I don't care that much about the equity. I like more cash flow, because the cash flow is what's going to get me that passive income right now so that I can do the things that I really like.
So can you tell our listeners, not everybody understands the difference between active and passive. So what is the difference between active income and passive income?
Yeah, so one of the main things is that when you're making active income, you're trading your time for money, right? So that's somebody
Going
in
to
a
work.
job.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So job, whether you're getting paid by the hour or you have a salary, right? Or you might be a freelancer.
Typically taxed, directly taxed income.
Exactly. Whereas when you're changing your time for money, is you're making that money work for you, and that becomes passive income, where you can invest in the stock market, or you can invest in real estate, or build a business or you create a product that every single month you get paid, right? For me, I liked real estate, and that's where I went all in.
So you've amassed quite a bit of property. I have 8 properties at age 20. I'm sorry, you said 26 now?
I just turned 27 a few months
27. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
So in DACA today, because I own a mortgage company here in Massachusetts, and DACA has been one of those things that, it sounded like you could get financed in the last few years up until this kind of came out, right? So were you able to finance pretty actively after a while once you got those first 1 or 2 homes under your belt?
Yeah, so basically, I don't know what changed, but I went from 1 month not being able to qualify to the next month being able to qualify.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, right now, as we speak in 2018, that has changed now. So right now, because of the uncertainty of DACA, I believe that going the conventional way, you cannot qualify for any more loans.
Even if you put up the equity in some of the properties that you own?
Well, that might be, but for somebody who's starting out, buying their first home,
right,
it's not possible anymore.
Because of the uncertainty around the immigration laws today. And that's really, we're still waiting to see what's going to happen. I mean, you would think they would work that out by now, right?
You would think. And that's been one of the things that I've been speaking as much as I can, just to make sure that we still have the options to have a good life here in America and pursuing the American dream.
Is there a difference, Diego, between good debt and bad debt?
Yes. So that was one of the things that I learned when I read the book by Robert Kiyosaki. And basically what that means is that the good debt is debt that other people are paying for or they're paying down. And then bad debt is debt that is not making you any money. It's more a liability. And you're paying that off your pocket, right? So for example, a car, having a car payment of like $400 or $500, I would consider that bad debt. Good debt will be getting a loan to buy a property where the mortgage may be like $800, but the rent is $1,000, right? So at that point, you're getting into debt, but you're making money off of that, and other people are paying that for you.
So Jonathan, if in fact that $400, $500 car payment, you were an Uber driver, maybe you can make that make sense for good debt. But if you're not making any kind of money coming in on that car, that's bad debt, and we have this conversation a lot under my roof. Good debt versus bad debt.
And that was one of the reasons. That was one of the reasons why I decided to rent a room for the first time when I moved to Austin, when I got a job as a software developer at GM. I decided that, okay, I can pay $1,200 or $1,100 a month for a 1-bedroom apartment, or I can pay $500 or $600 a month and rent a room and have my expenses low so that I can continue to save money so that I can later make that money work for me. So even though I was making good money and had a nice salary, I decided to keep my expenses low so that by the end of the year, I could have enough money to make that work for me.
So now, is that what you talk about? House hacking? Is that what is house hacking?
Yeah. So I love house hacking because that was the thing that I believe, has set me apart to being able to own those 8 properties at a younger age. For me, so with house hacking is being able to buy a single family home or a multifamily, like a duplex or quadplex, where you live on one side or in the master bedroom, and you rent out the other sides, and you have your roommates or your tenants pay that for you. Right. But the good thing about this type of house hacking is that you do not need that 20% down as you would in an investment property. You can qualify with an FHA loan or 5% conventional loan. So as an example, I bought my first home to house hack here in Austin by putting, I believe it was like $6,000 or $7,000 down. But what that helped me, for $7,000 that I bought that property, my mortgage was around $1,350, and I rented each room for $550, which at the end of the day was bringing in $1,650 and kept me on the green an extra $300 a month.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
While I live for free. So for $7,000, I was living for free, and that $300 a month actually paid for my car payment. So since the age of 24, I haven't had to pay a mortgage payment from my pocket, and my car payment was getting covered by other people.
Now, that's not the only kind of hacking that you do, because I did a little research on you, and you appear to be able to travel around the country very inexpensively through something you call travel hacking. What's that about?
A little bit of that too. So travel hacking is basically where you had the credit cards. Like there's some credit cards, for example, with Southwest. Because I'm a dreamer, I can't leave the country, unfortunately. So the Southwest card is the best one to travel inside the United States. So what you do is the expenses that you have, you can convert that into points. What the travel hacking part is when you open a new credit card, there's specific rules or guidelines, but if you spend $3,000 the first time for the first 3 months that you get that credit card, you will get 40,000 points or 50,000 points. So you can convert that to like 2 or 3 flights throughout the year. And that's how I've been able to also be able to like travel very inexpensively.
It's great. I was booking a trip just for my points.
Nice.
So I mean, it does work.
Yeah.
So Diego, it's, is this something you just came up on your own? Or you read a book about house hacking? I mean, I've never heard the term house hacking. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah. So house hacking, I read about it in the blog called Bigger Pockets.
Yep.
Bigger Pockets. I believe Joshua Dorkin and Brandon Turner. Those are the guys in charge of that podcast and that website. And so I heard about them, and that's when I found out, okay, there is a term to what I want to do, and then I began to just going all in, and now I have something called the House Hacking Club, where I'm helping millennials, because I feel like the house hacking is easier for the millennials because they're the ones that can take that sacrifice for a couple of years, right, to live with a few roommates. But at the end of the day, house hacking for me is the thing that has set me apart, because by living for free, I've been able to have more money in the bank than my other friends, right? Than my other coworkers. So I sacrificed a little bit, but in being able to have that extra cash, I can multiply that into other properties and other opportunities. And for me, that's been able to give me that freedom to also quit corporate America, because I decided to take that calculated risk where once I didn't have any bad debt and my only debt was good debt, but it was my expenses were getting paid by my roommates, then I knew that at that point I could quit working in corporate America and go full out in real estate. And now I'm a full-time agent here in Austin.
Yeah, so we kind of looked you up before the show, and it looks like you were Keller Williams down in Austin, Texas.
Yeah, I'm over here.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
And so I mean, we do you kind of walk people through millennials and try to get them going? And have you had any success bringing someone from, say, zero, from a new house all the way up to investment property? Do you bring them through all the different steps?
Yeah. So what's been cool is that I've been able to do this with a few people here in Austin. They just happen to be my friends or clients or people that heard about me. And what's cool is that with house hacking, right, the benefit of it is that you can buy that home putting a low down payment, right? So I've been able to, and the good thing too is that you can qualify for one of these low down payment loans once a year or once every 2 years. So I've been able to help a couple of my clients in 2 years buy 2 homes. And then they either kept one as a rental property and now they're house hacking their second one, or they put somebody in the master bedroom when they move out and they buy the second one. And I've been able to help them build a real estate portfolio like that.
So, the book that we just came out with, Real Estate Riches, I mean, it really talks about exactly what you're doing. I mean, you're taking somebody and you're putting them right through the steps of make them wealthy. And we talk about this whole chapter about when you're looking for a real estate partner, you're looking for a real estate agent. Imagine if you had Diego as a real estate agent, because he's not just showing you homes, he's creating wealth. And there's a huge difference between your typical realtor out there and someone that is actually looking, to have you create wealth through the real estate industry. And just it shows you.
It's a different mindset.
It's a whole different mindset. And I think that, Diego, you could probably speak to this, but I mean, you must see 1,000 realtors out there in your area. Texas is a big state. And, you must be set apart than most of them because you're creating wealth for your customers.
Yes. So in that sense, even though I'm young, I had a couple of people that tell me, "Hey, Diego, but you're young and all this stuff." But I'm like, "Hey, I am young, but in my young years in real estate, I've sold homes, I've bought homes on my own, I've bought a brand new home, so like a new build. So I know what I'm doing on the personal side, because there's always in helping somebody do it when you've never done it, and then there's a difference when you've done it yourself.
Exactly.
So when other investors, when you're a realtor and you tell somebody, "Hey, let me find you an investment property," but you've never invested, it's like it's a little bit different. Where if you've done it, you have that experience under your belt.
Yeah, you got the chops.
And and one of the things that helped me at a young age is connecting with the right people that they have become my teachers, my mentors, and that's what set me apart too.
How important is, and this is going to sound like an out of left field question, but how important is dancing for you?
Yeah, so dancing is actually one of my hobbies. I used to teach salsa dancing when I was at FSU, and what was crazy is that my senior year, every weekend my senior year, I was out traveling somewhere else than Tallahassee just to dance, and I was dancing about 15 hours a week. It was awesome.
Mr. Jonathan's asking you because he's a world-renowned swing dancer.
Yeah, I do West Coast swing, but we actually may have a friend in common. There's a gentleman in Austin by the name of Ramiro Gonzalez who does a soul salsa program where he dances salsa to mostly R&B, 60s, 70s, 80s type of stuff. I don't know if you've heard of him, but Ramiro Gonzalez, he's a famous salsa dancer.
I think I have heard of him. Yes, I have.
So, getting back from the salsa, getting back from your swing
Sorry
clinic.
to take that little side venture there.
But Diego, talking back more about your mentors, right? I mean, I think, I'm from Boston, so I got to pronounce the R, but mentors. Let's talk about a little bit about who you followed or who was kind of, what type of person that you followed. Was it a real estate broker? Was it a loan officer? Was it an attorney? Or was it more of a motivational type speaker, or all of the above?
Yeah, so here's the one cool thing that happened. Well, and this is when my life completely changed. I heard a podcast by a guy named Pat Hyben. It was an interview with Pat Hyben on the podcast Super Agents Live. And this was when I was 23 and I just got I had just become a realtor. I heard about the guy named Pat Hyben and I followed him on Twitter. Then I tweeted at him because he sent me a message telling me that he now has a podcast, and he mentioned in every interview I send him a message on Twitter and I thanked him and I told him what I learned from him. And I told him, hey, I'm 23 years old. I am just becoming a realtor, and thank you so much for the value in your podcast. And in one of his podcasts, he mentioned his mastermind group called Go Abundance.
What was it again?
And excuse me?
I'm sorry, what was it called? Go
Abundance.
Go Abundance. Okay.
Yeah. And when I heard about that, he said it was like the importance of your tribe and connecting with the mastermind. And I had read about the mastermind in the book by Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich.
Yep.
But this was the one time that I'm like, oh, cool, maybe I can join a mastermind. So when I told him about it, when I told him that, how can I join? He tells me it's a mastermind for people that have a net worth of $1 million or more. So you had to be an entrepreneur and a millionaire to join. And at that point, I was like, my net worth is at 30,000 right now. I just graduated college. I'm just starting out. But I went to the website and I submitted a form. So I did it anyway, knowing that I was probably not going to be able to join. Well, long story short, a few months later, I found myself getting invited to one of the elders or one of the founders of the mastermind group. And I'm the only one, I'm the youngest one in the group. And we are at a house in Steamboat and I'm there with 15 entrepreneurs ranging their net worth from $1 million to 40 million. Wow. And that's when my life changed. And being able to get to know these people, most of them have gotten their wealth through real estate. So they told me, Diego, we build Go Abundance for millionaires, but in hearing your story of being a dreamer and you being able to own 2 properties, even though the obstacles that you've had, and not being able to drive till the age of 22, is like, we want to help you become a millionaire. And they became my mentors, and I became an apprentice for their tribe. And when I did that, my standard changed, right? Because right. I was asking myself different questions. The conversations in my life were at a different standard. So now it became common to talk about, hey, what's your passive income every month? I never had that with my friends in college, right? So then when you begin to asking yourself those questions, that's when I began to take action towards that. And that's when everything changed. And one of the guys, his name is David Osborne. He wrote the book Wealth Can't Wait. He told me, Diego, you should work for 2 things. You should only work for equity or knowledge. And that's when I decided that I had to find a way out of my corporate America job to be able to continue building wealth.
It's a great story. I mean, very, very impressive how you were able to get into that group when they basically said no.
Yeah. And now the funny thing is they capitalize on my story, and they realize that they could also help other people that are on their path to becoming a millionaire. So now they create a program called March to $1 Million. And fortunately, I was like the first one in that group. And that's why my whole life changed, because I have a tribe of 150 entrepreneurs, have a net worth of now between like 1 to 100 million, and I have their cell phone numbers and I can ask them questions and stuff like that. So it's definitely been a life-changing experience.
That's very impressive. So I mean, that's really the game changer, or what do you think? Did you reverse engineer type of your goal, and do you have a goal now that you're setting out to create more passive income? And do you believe in reverse engineering, where you say, look, I want to get to this number for passive income a month, and then kind of reverse it to make that goal?
Yeah. So I learned I can talk about that on 2 things, right? Yep. When I joined the community with Go Abundance, they showed me a term of becoming 100 per center. And for me, what that means is that, okay, what part of your passive income or what part of your expenses is covered by your passive income? Because when a lot of people think, oh, you have to build wealth and you have to get financial freedom, a lot of people think that you really need a lot of money in order for you to like quit your job, which you really don't need it if you focus. You do not need to overstretch that goal. You just need to focus first in what your expenses are. Right. And as you were saying, walk yourself backwards, right? Yep. So I found out that my expenses were around $3,500 to $4,000 a month, with including my mortgage and everything. So then from there, I just worked my way backwards. I didn't need $10,000 or $15,000. I only needed $4,000 at that point. Yep. So that's when I worked my way backwards. Okay, I need one house to do this. I need to house hack this home, and I need to save this money so that I can buy this investment property, right? It was only 3 or 4 things that I needed to do, not 20 things, because people get scared because they think that the goal is so high. And one of the last things that I learned was that it's important to just hit the base hits, like just get to the first base, where a lot of people are looking for that home run deal. Like there's people that said for the past 3 years, oh, I'm going to get in real estate, but I'm looking for the best deal. And while they're doing that, I already bought 3 or 4 properties, exactly. Right? Because I just want to get to another hit in base.
You basically make the money when you buy that home because you know what the cash flow is going to be. I mean, it's not so much, looking for that appreciation. If you keep looking for appreciation, you're probably going to lose, right? Because you want to have that cash flow, and that's the name of the game is cash flow. Question for you, Diego. Do you use a property management firm or do you manage it yourself? How does that work? Because I know a lot of our people that listen to our show, they're getting into real estate. They're thinking about, getting investment property. And one of the biggest concerns or questions is, should I get a property manager or should I try to figure this out myself?
Yeah, so one of the main things that I did is when the properties that I own in Florida, that's where I have a property management where I do hire a company. The ones in Austin, I manage them myself.
Okay. Very interesting. And what do you find with the property management company in Florida? Does it go pretty? Is it simple? I mean, do you get a lot of calls, or do they kind of handle everything?
It's pretty. They handle everything. But when there's a big issue, like if we have to change a roof or there is a turn, they do send me a list of the things that need to be done, and then I approve it.
Okay, great. Yeah, I mean that's good information. I mean, a lot of people are, thinking about investing over state lines because, like, for example, New England, very frothy. You're not really buying for cash flow here right now. I mean, everything's at to buy a 3-family today. I can't see how the numbers really make sense, So people are starting to invest over state lines.
I hear a lot of people going double wide and they're not looking back. That's just what I hear.
Jonathan's a minimalist, so he wants to be have a double wide. And you could house hack those for sure.
Yeah, you could.
Yeah.
I got ideas. Diego set me up.
Yeah.
So Diego, talk a little bit about your website, Free by 26. So if someone goes to your website, do you kind of take them through, basically they become your customer, or is there any kind of educational materials? Do you have questionnaires or Excel spreadsheets to help people break this stuff down?
Yeah. So in Free by 26, I use that as a way to tell my story about how I was able to become financially independent, right? Yep. Before the age of 26 or before I turned 27. And so one of the things that I do share in there is the Excel spreadsheet that I use to track all of my expenses and my net worth every single month. So that I can know what's been coming in and what's coming out. And then the other thing that I share in there is something called the House Hacking Club, which is a course that I'm actually doing right now, where the idea is to teach to teach a millennial or teach someone how to go from not owning any real estate and not knowing what to do to house hacking and starting making passive income and finding the right roommates and walking them through the process. So that's a course that I'm creating right now.
That's great. That's great. I mean, I mean, this is. I feel like we talk about a lot of the same things, and we believe in a lot of the same things, and the only difference is I'm 44, soon to be 45, so I've got 20 years on him.
And
So
Diego
you're way
has,
above you.
Diego has that lush head of hair.
Yeah, and that's
the other.
Right?
But no, really,
That's
a
good.
great story, Diego. Question
Thank
in the
you.
audience.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so the website is www.freeby26.com. So freeby26.com. Free, Free, by 26.com. So we have an audience here, Diego, and I think that most of probably fathers want to get their kids involved in this at an early age.
Yeah,
That'd be my guess,
for
right?
sure.
And I think that all the things that you learned through your years, it's almost like you must have other plans, some kind of moonshots that you want to. I kind of feel that you would want to teach this to kids at an early age. Like I feel like you want to get it in the educational system.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that I felt like where I see that I didn't get that education when I was in high school or college. And I feel like if they get this education of making your money work for you at an early age, then you begin to spend your money in a different way and spending it more for the long run than for the short run, right? And that's why in the long run, my goal is to build a bigger life, not a bigger lifestyle. Because in the beginning, like when I got my job in corporate America, I could have easily cut in an apartment downtown, paying like $2,000 or $2,500 a month, and then getting that nice Camaro of like
Right.
2015, right? Or like 2013 when I started. And then all of a sudden, now I have that 2,500 and probably a $500 car payment or more. And then I got stuck in the rat race. So the idea for me is to teach people how not to get stuck in the rat race and choosing a vehicle. For me, it just happened to be real estate. And that's something that I really like.
And it sounds like
but
a little bit of sacrifice early in your life is what's going to pay off and make it so that you can retire early and enjoy the rest of your life.
Exactly. And Dave Ramsey, I think, is him who said, like, if you live for 2 years like most people don't, then you can live for the rest of your life like most people won't.
Exactly.
Right. So I take that, even though like I love the Robert Kiyosaki, Dave Ramsey has some really good quotes too, which is like the opposite. But it's totally doable. And I feel like it's easier to make those sacrifices when you're young, when you don't have any kids, you have like no responsibilities. And especially if the parents out there teach their kids how not to get into student debt, I feel like that's one of the things that that a lot of millennials have now, and we are the first generation where when we graduate and we become adults, we're like the first ones that are in 20,000, 50,000, 80,000 in debt. So it's teaching that information to the young people so that they can know how to take the right actions.
So, Diego, we want you to start the crusade to get this into schools, and we'll jump on.
Perfect.
You heard it here first on Easy Money New England.
Easy Money New England. I mean, I think that's, as you get older in life and you want to start, working on things, not so much for money anymore, but for enjoyment, one of the major things really is our school system's broken, especially when we're on all these kids today, they think it grows on trees, like, oh, Dad, I want this, I want that, I want this, I want that. And they have no idea where the money comes from. So, I mean, I'd jump on that in a second. So we're going to send you some links after the show. Maybe we can get something started.
He's got two little kids, and he's already turning into a curmudgeon.
That's funny. No, but for example, for me, it was like I was the kind of person that I couldn't ask my dad, for example. I didn't feel comfortable when I was young to be like, hey, I want a TV. Right. I ended up I remember that I bought my first TV when I was 10 years old. I managed to save $100 and I bought a 13-inch, one of those like old school TVs because all my friends had one, but I didn't want to ask my dad for one because I knew that at that point we couldn't afford it. So I did that all on my own. And it was like those small things that if you tell your kid, right, hey, you want a new TV or you want an Xbox, okay, you're going to have to do these things so that you can earn it rather than have it as a gift.
Not to joke, but I mean, you could get into a parenting book too.
No joke.
No joke.
Imagine if Diego was my dad.
I'll make you work.
That's right. You got to work for it, right?
Yeah, because at the end of the day, it's like you have to build those habits, right? And it's something that my parents taught me by just seeing them as the example. And even though, for example, my dad owns 2 Peruvian restaurants in Florida, and even though they were very excited for me to go to college and get that great job, when I told them that I was going to quit corporate America, they were very supportive because they knew that I built the right habits to be successful in life. So they were supporting me 100% of the way.
That's excellent. I mean, he coming from a great college too, Florida State. I mean, that couldn't have been cheap, right?
Fortunately, it was at that point.
At that point.
At that point it was, but it's not. Yeah, I guess so. I did get a few scholarships.
Wow. Was it academic?
But academic scholarships.
Wow,
Yeah, I graduated third in high school.
Wow.
And yeah, but because I was a dreamer, or because at that point, like, I wasn't documented, I couldn't qualify for any student loans.
Oh, wow.
So it was a blessing in disguise.
Right.
Because I had to figure out a way to work. And then I found out that I also couldn't work legally. So I had to figure out another way to go about it. And I found out that I could open my own LLC and work as a contractor. And I began doing websites for small businesses and nonprofits so that I could pay my way through college.
Remarkable. I mean, when I saw your basically your one sheet on the on the going back and forth on someone that we could interview, I was waiting for this one, right? Because it was about 3 weeks away.
It's a big get right here.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just it's very good. I mean, for everything that you've done from your age is remarkable. And I just I want to see what is your goal? I want to hear it here first. Where are you going to get to? What's your goal? How many properties, how many units, or how much passive income? What are you going to measure yourself on for the next time we have you on the show?
Yeah. So one of my goals in the next year, like within the next year, is to get my passive income to be $100,000 a year, which comes out to be $8,333 a month. So having that as my guideline, that's where I want to be in the next year.
Excellent. Well, we're going to hold you to that. We're going to kind of get you back on the show for sure. And
yes, sir.
Jonathan, you have anything else for Diego?
I got nothing. He's the man.
He's making us feel dumb at our older age. But Diego, great. I mean, it was great interviewing you, and wish you all the best. And just to close out the show, we call this show Easy Money New England, where we like to say there's no such thing as easy money.
That's right.
And you got to work for it, as you know. So without, Jonathan,
that's it.
That's all you got.
That's it. There's no such thing as easy money, as we've heard. You got to earn it.
Diego, thanks again.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
It's a new day, it's a new way. Call 877-NEW-FED1. It's a new way.
Hi folks, it's Brian D'Amico, owner of New Fed Mortgage, and I'm really excited to introduce Fast Track Mortgage, our new online system that gets you approved in less than 15 minutes. Whether it's a refinance or a new purchase, just go to newfed.com anytime, day or night, and click on the Fast Track Mortgage button. Fill out the form, and within 15 minutes, we'll approve your loan at the lowest rate possible. Don't waste time dealing with big banks. We're local and here to help you close your loan fast. Just go to newfed.com 24/7 and get approved in less than 15 minutes. Fast Track from New Fed Mortgage. Now that's a new way to get the loan you need fast.
877-NEW-FED1.
Subject to credit approval, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS number 1881. Call us to the website for details.
877-NEW-FED1.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.